Excel screens can look kind of intimidating, especially if you're a new user. So I want to give you a little tour of what's happening here, make things a little easier for you. Let's start near the top. First thing, most obvious thing, is this giant toolbar, and that's called the ribbon bar. And instead of having drop-down menus and multiple rows of toolbars like a typical program or like Excel had a couple of versions ago, we have these tabs, kind of like a tab dialog box. And you can click any of these and see different sections of the ribbon bar. Now this tab over here on the left, labeled File, that's kind of special. Click the File tab, and this is what's called Backstage View. And Backstage View doesn't deal with the content of your workbook. This deals with the files themselves, the workbook as a whole. Things like saving, opening, closing, printing, and so on. Now, the keyboard shortcuts are the same as in other versions of Excel and just about every other program. So, for example, you can press Control-S to save. You can press Control-Open. You can press Control-P to print. So if you know what some of these keyboard shortcuts are, they can reduce some of your mouse clicks. Now, because we were in the Home tab before we clicked the File tab, if you press the Escape key on your keyboard, it's in the upper left probably, that brings you out of Backstage View and back to the Home tab. So it kind of remembers where you were. Now, above the ribbon bar, you have this little mini toolbar, and that's called the Quick Access Toolbar. And the Quick Access Toolbar is where you can put commonly used commands, things that you use a lot, rather than having to go and find them on the ribbon bar. Now, you also have here, this little box is called the Name box. Right now it says A3 because the currently selected cell is A3, where column A meets row 3. To the right of that, we have this empty box. It's called the Formula bar. When you're typing in text or editing formulas, that's where the magic happens. Now across here we have our columns, and columns are always letters, and there are over 60,000 columns available going across. Our rows, you can see here, are numbered. You have over 1 million rows going down. There are about, or a little bit more than 16.7 million cells in this worksheet. Now this is one worksheet. Take a look down here. We have sheet 1, 2, and 3. By default, a new Excel workbook will have 3 sheets. Now you can click them, see there's nothing in these. You can add worksheets, you can remove worksheets. You have to have at least one worksheet in a workbook, kind of makes sense. You can have as many as you want, there's no limit. If you have a lot of worksheets, you can use these little VCR type of buttons to navigate back and forth through them. In the lower left corner, this Ready command simply means Excel is ready and waiting for you to do something. So for example, you can select stuff. Now over here in the lower right corner, we have these 3 little buttons here are just different ways of viewing the worksheet, and we'll talk about those. And you have this little zoom assembly, and you click this little minus to zoom out. You can click this plus to zoom in, or you could use this little handle in the middle and drag that left and right to zoom in and out. I really don't use that for zooming very often because I find there's a better way. If you hold the Control key down and then use the rolly wheel of your mouse and roll backwards, you can zoom out. If you hold the Control key down and roll forwards, you can zoom inwards. If you're using a laptop, many laptops have like a little side panel on the right that you can move your finger back and forth, and that works the same way as the rolly wheel on the mouse. So my advice is get yourself kind of familiar with what's happening on the screen, and you'll find that your life in Excel is going to be a lot easier.